everyone. Welcome back to Behind the Mask. It's season 3, and I'm EJ, one of your co-hosts here. Lori and T are joining me today so we can talk about episode 50, The Massive Celebration. Today's just going to be a catch-up and a celebration episode. We hit our 50th episode. I think it's pretty awesome. I know in our previous episode and at the end of season 2, we talked a little bit about some of our favorite episodes, so we're not going to do that this time, but we just wanted to give you guys an update of what's been going on in our life. It's been about 5 months or so since we last recorded and shared an episode. So the last 5 months or so have been pretty hectic and crazy for all of us, and we've all got a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, so we just thought we'd jump in and just kind of share a little bit and give you guys an update on our lives, and then talk a little bit about what we want to do for the podcast. So
I am just excited that we are all three back together in this format and sharing and connecting with our audience and each other. It has truly been bit of a whirlwind, lots of ups and downs, as EJ shared. Wow, I feel like in that 4-ish months that an entire year's worth of stuff has happened. There was a meme that I saw the other day, and I reposted it on Facebook, I think, and it said, how can it almost be Thanksgiving? Well, Christmas is already here. Happy New Year is 2024, you know. Right. And I was like, that is how I feel about the last half of this year. I feel like mentally, physically, spiritually, so many things have come and gone and we've experienced. I feel as if I possibly lived an entire year in the last 4 to 5 months.
Yeah, and I see this meme too, and it's before I sign the contract for 2024, I need to read the terms and conditions.
Because, you mean that thing that we never read?
Oh my god. Yeah. We've okay, so like, I'm happy to say I finally got my book published back in September. So that's my big celebrated thing right now. I tried LARPing. That was a thing. Lori's son.
Tell people what that is.
Okay, so LARPing is short for live action role play. So Lori's younger son and his family have gotten into it. So they spent the summer, every Saturday they go to a local park and they dress up in costumes and run around with foam swords, and it's just this huge thing. And a couple months ago, Lori and I were there because we've been going and just to encourage them and take pictures and stuff. And there was a weekend that there weren't a lot of people there. Some of them had been gone off to a camping trip or something, and
they went out to get knighted.
Oh yes, there were some that were going to get knighted, and so we didn't go to that, obviously. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try this thing. And so her younger son, gave me a sword, and I was out there a little bit fighting with the kids, and their younger kids have gotten into it, Lori's grandkids, and Lori even got out there, so we have some pictures of her and I both out there with the swords and running around, so that was fun. Yeah, I've been singing on the worship team and working on tech team, and yeah, we've not taken a lot of road trips because I feel like we've really been swamped. We did get to go, where did we go? Oh, we just kind of headed up north from where we are here in Eastern Washington, just to kind of see kind of the northeastern Washington area, and learned that there's a ferry along the Columbia up there that we had no idea was there. So that was kind of a cool little experience.
Yes, who knew we had a ferry on this set?
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was a cool little trip.
We also made it out to, we made a second trip out to like a reserve. What is the name?
Oh yeah, the Turnbull. Yeah, so Turnbull, it's out in Cheney. It's this wildlife refuge. We went out there for a little bit. Oh, we did go to Wallace. We drove over to Wallace, Idaho, which is about an hour-ish away from us. And my grandmother graduated high school from there in 1930 something, 19 early 40s, late 30s.
When it was still known for what it was known for?
The silver, yeah.
No,
Well, what was it known for?
Wallace was the red light district.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense. Well, it yeah, I'm not surprised after being there and seeing it. There wasn't much else to do.
Okay, wait. What was that cool thing about the center of the earth or whatever?
Oh yeah, so
So they were trying to
apparently
get on the tourism thing.
50 years ago or something, the mayor or somebody in Wallace declared that Wallace was the center of the universe. And
Right.
so right in town, there's a intersection, and in the center, there's this medallion, and it's like, this is the center of the universe. And it's this big medallion with like a compass on it, and it says center of the universe, Wallace, Idaho. And I'm like, I'd actually never been into Wallace, even though my grandmother was from there, because she moved to Seattle when I was way before I ever was born or thought of. And so she never had gone back there. We never traveled, and it was always a town we kind of passed through whenever my family would go traveling to visit family in Minnesota. Or we'd pass over it, on I-90. So that was kind of cool to see that. And it's funny because recently I was going through some boxes and I found something with my grandmother's like a Letterman sweater, like the letter. She did not the sweater, but just the letter itself, with a year on it. And I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm like, I'd really like to do some history digging in that area and kind of see what I can find, just because I don't know a lot about my grandmother's time there. And I know her and her brother both graduated high school from Wallace High School. So yeah, so that was kind of a cool little historical thing we found. And Lori and I have been doing a lot of writers conferences and groups, and we've committed or connected with some local, like the North Idaho Writers League. We've connected with some local writers here.
And what else did I drag you to that ended up being totally fun and outside the norm for you? Shakespeare.
Oh yeah, well, I was getting to that. Yeah, so we went, I guess they're creating a Shakespeare group over in a city not far from here. So yeah, so we went to this one event. It was just kind of talking about like what they're trying to do and their goals for the next 3 to 5 years. And then they started doing like monthly Shakespeare readings. So
Called it table reading.
Yeah, table reads. And so we didn't get to go to the first one, but we went to the second one. And originally I wasn't planning on playing a character, but when I got there, they were like, yeah, we've got like 3 or 4 people that aren't going to be able to be here, so we might have to ask some people to play a second character. And I'm like, I guess I can read one. So that was definitely kind of an interesting experience for me. I'd never done a table read before. But it was cool to see kind of how it was. And there were people from all walks of life there, older people, younger people, professional actors, and also, people who just enjoy Shakespeare. I've never read a lick of Shakespeare in my life. Don't really plan to. So what we read in the table read is the most I've ever read in my life of Shakespeare or know about him. So it is not my thing. It's Lori's thing, but I wanted to go and encourage her, and also kind of encourage the people there. And, there's a lot of other things that I can help with besides reading and being an actress. So I'm going to lean on that and be behind the scenes.
Well, I really appreciated you going, and I was really proud of you when you stepped up and you're like, I guess I could do some reading,
Right.
And for me, of course, I'm a theater and history major. I'm a huge fan of Shakespeare. Got to go to some Shakespeare in the Park during this break. Also got to, I really, really enjoyed Macbeth with Denzel Washington, and there were so many other people in that one on Apple TV. I very much enjoyed it. A good friend of mine who isn't into that either. I love that I'm dragging all these people with me that are not Shakespeare fans. She's like, I'll watch it with you. I was like, are you sure? It's kind of dark. She's like, no, I'll do it. So she watched it with me. You were gone,
Oh, yeah.
EJ. Yeah, and so we watched it. I don't think she loved it. I mean, it's kind of hard to anyway. Shakespeare can be really dark. Tragedy. But anyway, I love that I'm getting to drag all of these people into my love of Shakespeare, my love of theater, and just get to have a little fun with it. I very much enjoyed the table reading. Wine and Shakespeare and chocolate and charcuterie boards. I was in heaven.
As we were driving to that day, I remember thinking, okay, we're probably going to have some really upscaled snacks because this is Shakespeare people. And we get there, there's prosciutto, there's brie, there's all sorts of crackers, there's charcuterie on steroids, I tell you. And I was like, yep, this is the class of people. Not in a bad way, but I'm just like, there's certain expectations with Shakespeare and like panned out.
They lived up to it. Hey, but somebody brought a whole bunch of Halloween candy.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Threw it out on the table.
Yeah. And what else? I feel like the last, I don't know, especially the last like 3 or 4 months, we've really dove into getting ourselves out there to the writing community in the area.
Yes.
I'm an introvert. We talked all last season about introverts and extroverts, and so you guys know, like our listeners, that I'm an introvert and Lori's an extrovert. But I felt like I made some pretty awesome connections. Most recently at this writers conference we attended. It was a free event put on by local libraries. It was a 2-day event. I think each day had like 4 or 5 classes, and there's actually 10. So like there was 2 choices each hour. And so Lori went to one and I went to the other. And we each met a bunch of people and made some connections and kind of solidified that with some of the answers we had, that this is what we want to do. This is how we want to help people. So we're definitely looking at kind of seeing what a business might look like to do that. Or, if we continue working with the person we've been working with. And yeah, so just kind of opening up and seeing what kind of God has in store for us and kind of leaving the question mark out there. And I'm currently knee deep in writing the second book of my series, which goes along with the first book that I published in September. I think I've probably made 6 or 8 updates on the manuscript since then, just of things I've caught as I've read through it or things I've wanted to make. I know Lori was like, nobody's really going to care exactly where the page number is on your book page. I'm like, but I care, and I'm trying to fix it, and I'm still not getting it where I want to. So my little OCD is starting to go over, but I'm like, I have to make that decision as to whether it's an OCD thing or if it's really like, okay, is this going to impact the reading of the book?
We're going to have an episode in a few weeks that'll be, headed in that direction.
Yeah. Yay.
So as we have made these connections, as we have, during this time, EJ crossed over to the dark side. She turned 40. So
I say 40 is the new 30, honestly.
I feel like it
is.
But what I was going to say is one of the other things that I dragged her into without really asking her was I met this woman out at a baseball game in the summer. And, I'm an extrovert, so I just meet lots of people and nobody's a stranger, and so I'm out at the baseball game, I meet up with this woman, and then we connect on social media, and we start commenting on each other's pictures and things going on. And next thing you know, I get an invite to this group that is for 40 and over. I'm like, oh goody, I can sign EJ up. And I dragged her along to this community event of Bunko. If you have never heard of Bunko, it's a crazy dice game where people go a little insane. We're not
They were
gonna.
a little ruthless. And most of the women there were over the age of 70.
It was amazing. It was a lot of fun. And we connected with women in our community.
Yep.
And I think I do remember you saying it was actually better than I thought it was going to be. At some point. So we also went to a symphony for the first time. Got some tickets through this friend that I had made. And again, not an experience that EJ or any of the other women that went with us in my life would normally engage in. Got dressed up. Well, some of us got dressed up.
I protested.
Yes, you protested. But really, I had an amazing time. The pianist, guest pianist, was
She sang
incredible.
Just clarifying in case the words are slipping.
Okay. Anyway, hopefully I spoke that correctly. He is a pianist. He was amazing.
Yeah.
And what made him so amazing was how engaged he was, how animated he was. There was such joy in what he was doing that you just couldn't help but get into it. He made it fun. We did have a show that we were gonna go see that got canceled. I was kind of bummed, but it ended up being for the best. But hopefully we'll get to go to that one next time. But for me, probably the biggest thing that I've done, and I think maybe I kind of talked about it upcoming or whatever. There's so many pieces to the trip that I took. I was saddened when we realized that my bestie and roommate and partner in crime couldn't go with a lot of things, and we'll talk about some of those things in a little bit, but she couldn't go. EJ couldn't go. And she and we had done an epic road trip, just back in May, and really, really enjoyed it and had a great time. So I was really looking forward to her coming on this one again, but things just made it so that she couldn't go. So I went instead with 3 other women who I'd never been on a road trip with. I'm not going to say that I advise most people to do that, only because there is just no way that you can even imagine what will come up or what will happen or what might happen. I think the very first day, the plans and itineraries was thrown to the wind. Like from the very first, like we didn't leave at the time we were supposed to. We didn't. It was out the window. And I am this dichotomous person. I believe I very much like to plan. I like to have a plan. As a previous event coordinator, wedding coordinator, I like order. I do. I very much like order. But I also have realized and come to this, being that I'm, over 50 now, I've learned to embrace doing a little flexibility and flying by the seat of your pants. And I felt this entire trip was a fly by the seat of your pants. Literally not one day went as scripted, went as planned. And that was a bit difficult. Yeah. Yet had some of the most amazing experiences. Through this podcast, we've been sharing, all of our past, but mine in specific with men, with relationships, with getting behind the masks and being authentically myself and embracing all kinds of new things. This trip that I took had at the center of it was a singles ministry conference. There were over 900 people there. This extrovert stood on the first night. I actually went to the bathroom and almost threw up. Like, I was like, what are you doing here, Lori? This is insane. You're stupid. It was overwhelming. So even an extrovert can be overwhelmed by something like that. Of course, there were so many things that were overwhelming. Here I was putting myself out there saying, in my mind, maybe I might be open to a date. Maybe I might be open to a relationship with the opposite sex, or, someone outside of my normal comfort zone. By going on this trip in my mind, I was saying, I'm willing to fly by the seat of my pants. And I think that, you talk about not praying for patience, right? Because God will give it to you. I should have never said I was open to that, because God gave it to me. The Holy Spirit said, oh, you think you're ready to fly by the seat of your pants? Watch this. It was kind of crazy. But there were so many wonderful things about the trip. So many opportunities for me to grow. So many opportunities for me to see things that I love. The ocean. Because of all of my past experiences, water is such a holy, symbolic, beautiful relationship that I have in my life. I didn't always have that, but I do now. And one of the women on the trip with me was able to capture some of those moments for me. And I think, T, when you and I ran into each other, I talked about the fact that in that, the one picture that she captured, I didn't even recognize myself at first. Like, I was like, who is that happy person? Who is that courageous woman out there just braving the elements and just not having a care in the world? And I was like, wait a minute, that's me. Like, yeah, there's so many great things on that trip. Getting to stop by the cemetery where most of my family is buried. My grandmother's, one of my uncles, my mother, one of my brothers, and getting to reconnect with one of my brothers and his wife, putting roses on the grave, talking, praying, making peace. Some of them I never even got to go to their memorials or celebrations of life. I wasn't in places in my life where I was able to do that. And it really was just a beautiful time for me to find peace, to give myself grace, to forgive myself for not being there. I didn't even know that I needed to do that until I was doing it. There was just so much wrapped up in that. Right before I went, another one of those crazy, you can't make it up, try to plan how you're going to meet up with this, one of my longtime friends. We've been friends since childhood. She's probably there's a few people I've connected with from my childhood on social media, but no one that's been in my life and come and seen me all over the world. And I haven't gotten much opportunity to go and meet and be with her. I think the last time I'd actually been down there was when my mother passed away, which had a whole lot of, trauma and grief in it. So we got to spend, I think, almost 3 hours. She made us sandwiches and we just visited, and it was amazing just talking. And it was like we'd never stopped talking. And we just, those relationships, those special ones where you just pick up where you left off and you didn't even know you left off. That's the relationship I have with her. And then that night got to, I'd never done this before. Well, that's not true. We met somebody that I only knew online on the previous trip, a fellow writer. So I felt comfortable enough to do that again. And EJ and I are part of a photo game group thing called Guru Shots. And we have these photo contests and things, and we have a whole team. There's almost, I think there is 20 of us on this team. And somebody that I'd always wanted to meet up with, we had made these good connections through the team. He happened to be living down there, and we made plans and we met up that night and we had dinner and got to meet his wife, and we just shared so many things. It was amazing. And all along the trip, two of the women on the trip with me are helping to lead a singles ministry in the area where they live in Texas. And so really wanted to make it a priority on this trip to stop at all of the different churches. We met up at this one in Santa Rosa. I think there are like 5 people. So our little group was more than, and we even brought a guest. So we doubled their numbers for the day for this tiny little house church. They were so amazing. We stayed in a bed and breakfast, Airbnb, then another disciple that I'd met through the previous singles ministry thing that I didn't get to really enjoy because I was in my Martha role and I didn't get to. So when I found these tickets online, this whole thing, my goal in going to this conference was for the first time to experience something this big as a guest and not as a worker. I tend to constantly, due to the gifts and talents that God's given me, due to the fact that constantly trying to run away, due to many other things, I find myself in a worker bee role. Yeah. And I really made a commitment to this one. And remember, EJ, when they sent out an email and they were asking for workers?
Yep.
Oh man, I just sit on my hands because I was like, oh, I could do that. I could do that. I was like, no, Lori, no, you're supposed to be going to this thing as a guest. You're supposed to just experience it and not work it. And I did that. And that was probably one of the most amazing things ever. I can't remember the last time that I just got to experience something and not work it and not be leading it, not be doing anything with those skills, just to sit and be merry and be still. Well, I don't know about how still this trip was, but to be able to sit at the foot of the cross and learn, to be able to meet new people and not have an agenda, not have a program, not have something I was trying to teach somebody, something I was trying to model. I just got to be me. And I got to learn that I'm kind of liking me. I'm kind of liking where I'm at. No, I'm not even kind of liking. I'm really enjoying where I'm at. I'm living fully and richly and embracing thorns and taking on challenges and crying and praying and, still in therapy, still seeing my counselor, still doing this podcast, still processing things. But I'm enjoying it. This trip really helped me to see that I still have much to learn, that I still have so much I haven't seen. And that with this new physical body that God and I are transforming, there is so much I can do. I started getting some blisters, some pretty bad blisters one day. I wore the wrong shoes and I didn't realize we were going to be walking a couple of miles that day. The fact that I walked a couple of miles and all that happened were blisters. Okay. Like, this is so amazing. I couldn't have done that. I could not have done that just 2 years ago. Walked and climbed up stairs. It was great too, though. God still reminded me there's things I can't do. So I'm sure I've mentioned this at different times. I have 3 pins in the right hand. I have a plate, 8 screws in the left. I still can't lift things. I still can't. There's a lot of anything too heavy. I can't lift it. My hands don't allow me. So guess what? I get to be humble and I get to ask for help. And every single time, sisters, brothers, friends, family, everyone helped when I needed it. But I love that God reminded me, yes, I'm transforming this body, but we're still going to have weaknesses. We're still going to have things we can't do. Unfortunately, we are not Marvel superheroes and semi-gods and demigods and whatever all the things they are, right? We're never going to have the perfect body. But what I am learning is to do as much as I can and to embrace it and have fun with it and live this full life. Got into a car with a young man and his mentor, who I've become really good friends with. We're texting and exploring and getting to know one another better. I wouldn't have been open to that even just a couple of years ago. I'd have been like, yeah, nope, not ready for that. This is my dance space, that's yours. I literally opened up my dance space and had a 5-hour ride between San Diego and Las Vegas and got to know him and this young man. And we stayed with veritable strangers again, people we didn't know. some family, extended family of people in our road trip. It was just the most amazing thing ever. And I grew so much. And hopefully over the next year, I'll get to share more. But what I would, so I wouldn't say go with complete strangers, it's not for everybody. Not everybody loves road trips. I did. I there were things that were hard. There were things that were difficult. I reached out. I remember calling you, T, one day and going, okay, just walk me through this. Just go through this thing with me because I'm not processing this well, I'm struggling here. I reached out to EJ. I reached out to, other people. I journaled a lot. God placed different people in my life. It wasn't a cakewalk, but it was an amazing experience that I could never have imagined and wouldn't give up for anything. I'm so blessed that I had it and so grateful. And so what I would encourage people to do is to do those things that scare you a little bit. Do those things that push you outside your comfort zone. Be willing to take chances. Be willing to meet strangers and eat with them and dine with them and share experiences with them. I really, you won't regret it. I cannot imagine anything that would make you regret doing that. Again, even with the downtimes, even with the frustrations, even with the fears, certain things that got triggered. I encourage you, if you're following us on social media, I posted so many pictures and so many thoughts from that time. Please go check them out, look at them. It was amazing, the trip of a lifetime. And loved every second of it, even the not great stuff.
So T, what's been going on in your life? Lori and I have shared quite a bit. It's time for you to share. You're muted too.
That better?
Thank you are. Yes, we
There
can
we
hear
go. We
you.
can hear you.
So what's interesting is at the same time Lori was on her trip, I had gotten an opportunity to go on a conference that my agency paid for me to go to, and it was a international trauma conference, and great speakers, great workshops. But so happened that Lori and I were in the same town at the same time while she was on her trip. So I see with her, see her, and I get to get out of my comfort zone, and went to dinner with her when she met her the person she knows from her that photo group and her friends. And I was my typical, what, I'm going to be around new people. I didn't agree to this. I didn't sign up to this. I mean, I'm around new people for the conference. That's to be expected. But I've got to go eat in front of people. I got to sit there and think of things to say and do, and all the things that I go into these situations worrying about and thinking about happen. It's like, okay, that was natural. That was okay. So, it was a great dinner, surprisingly, and because I'm not really into fancy restaurants. Thank you, spank you. But it was great. And then the rest of my trip was, great workshops. But what was really cool is I got to go to this conference by myself. A lot of times we go to these trainings and these conferences as a group from work, but because it was therapy focused, I was the one that went. And one of the things that I tell people, my fantasy vacation, my fantasy getaway is to get a hotel and go nowhere. Just go nowhere. Just do nothing. And I got to do that. And by I figured out Uber Eats and Instacart. I didn't leave my hotel. If I
Awesome.
go to the workshops, I didn't leave. And I was in heaven. It was great. Uber Eats and Instacart are my new friends. So I was so bad that so there was a place in the lobby for them to be able to leave their the items. So I would time it. It would tell me on my app when they were dropping it off, and I'd be in the lobby, but I wouldn't go up to them. I'd let them drop it off on the shelves. Then I would go get it, so I didn't have to interact.
Hmm.
And it was awesome.
Yeah.
Uh,
I would be in heaven.
yeah, it was great. I want to do it again.
This is why we are so amazing. You know, because I would have hated that. I mean, I could have handled it for about 24 hours and I'd be like, oh no, gotta get out.
Yeah, no, 24 hours wasn't enough. I was quite content. Other than that, for me right now, the biggest update is that I found out why I've been so sick this last year and why I was suddenly dropping weight without, I mean, I was eating cake and cookies, and the more I ate, the more I lost. And then one day I was I realized I was thirsty all the time, and there were other changes, and I had to establish care with a new physician. So they had me go do the standard blood work and found out that I'm diabetic. I'm one of those people that the higher my sugars, the more weight I lose. And so while I love the fact that I lost weight, as my nurse told me, it's not healthy. I
Right.
don't how I feel. I was in a brain fog, had a lot of difficulty doing the most simplest task. My husband even said, he goes, when you go through 3 days without doing dishes, I know you're not feeling good. Because I'll do dishes even when I'm sick. It's just a thing. So he knew it was getting bad. Thankfully, it's just the two of us, and it was a sinkful. 3 days for us is just a sinkful, but that's for me a lot. And so, so I'm trying to tackle that and the changes that come with that and whatnot. So those are some of the big things going on.
Yeah.
Just some.
Just I know we can honestly not sum it up in a short podcast episode. I mean, we've been doing all sorts of stuff. I'm right now unemployed, but for good reasons in some ways. Lori's health has improved enough that she doesn't need the caregiving hours she used to have. So unfortunately, she doesn't have enough for me to work. So I'm currently unemployed, looking for more clients or a new job. Really trying to kind of figure out what I want to do. My passion is definitely writing and publishing and helping people self-publish. So kind of figuring out how that looks and how that can work financially. Yeah, just trying to kind of see what God has in store. Um, my dad passed away like 2 years ago, and unfortunately, he had never changed his beneficiary from my mom to me after she passed away. So it took some time to get the proper paperwork through and everything for them to recognize that his life insurance should come to me and not my mom. So I did finally get that. So I had to get a little small settlement. It wasn't a lot, but it's enough to help me through. And I feel like this was God's answer to knowing that I was going to become unemployed, was that I was going to get this money, and somehow I was going to get some debt paid off, and I was going to be able to maybe live on it for a month or so as I kind of transition. And I'm just now like have no work hours. So like I had a paycheck. In fact, I got a paycheck today because it would be my last paycheck with any of the hours I worked. So we're just trying to figure out what this looks like. And I know that was unfortunately the reason why Lori and I decided that I should go on the trip, was because we found out in September that I'd be losing my hours at the beginning of November. So I wanted to take the time in October to really look, apply for jobs. I think I applied for like 40 or 50 jobs over the course of a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, most of them I didn't get to the next set stage. And some of them are like, yeah, we think you're way too overqualified for this job. I did just get one of those emails the other day. So that was like encouraging, but not encouraging, because I'm like, well, if I'm overqualified, I'm willing to take the job, or I wouldn't have applied for it. But yeah, so I think that's definitely kind of a valley right now. And then I know Lori and I, we've both our church body here in the area has, we lost a member of it. I've only been a member of this church body for a year and a half, but this person was an amazing man. He had quite a bit of stuff going on when I first met him. And then unfortunately he was diagnosed with a very severe form of cancer that unfortunately, even after some good news, he had a heart attack about 2 weeks ago and passed away very suddenly. And it's a shock. He had he had cancer, kidney disease. He was on dialysis and diabetes. And so those three were like, I really felt for him. And I also brought up a lot of kind of raw emotions with, having lost my parents to similar diseases. And so, that's that grief. And I know we'll talk about it a little bit in the next episode. I know we're going to plan, that we have planned. And so we've kind of been dealing with that, but we've also had a few, new people move into the area. Our singles ministry here in our little church is growing a little bit. We're finally kind of building up and establishing that we have a singles ministry and there are singles in our church, which is awesome. So kind of we're both helping in various ways, facilitating that and helping kind of organize and keep notes and all that stuff. So I feel like, this year or, the last 6 months, there's been a lot go on. I feel like, there are days when we'll get these random phone calls from a friend or a family member that's like, oh my God, my car's broke down. Can you come and give me a ride? Or,
your own car battery.
Oh yeah,
Your own issues.
Oh my God, yeah. So then dealing with that, my car is a hybrid, and so of course the battery is not a $50 or $60 battery; it's like a $250 battery. And I knew it was dying, and so thankfully it's not the high voltage hybrid battery that was the problem. It was the like engine start battery. But
thank God.
I think there was a week or two there where every day I was having to jump it to like get it to start to run. And so finally it really was like, nope, I'm done. And thankfully between some referrals from just different people, I was able to go and get it checked, and they're like, yeah, it's definitely the battery. It's not anything else. So thankfully it was just a fix in the battery, and praise God, I had my dad's life insurance money that I was able to take some money out of that and repair it. Because there'd been talk about maybe me upgrading my car, deciding if, but then I'm like, the cars that are currently out there in my price range, we're going to get like 20 miles to the gallon. And I'm like, I'm getting 37 on a good day. So I'm like, I really don't want to lose that. And my car is small. It's not like an SUV. It's a car. So it's definitely not great for, rural type of driving, but it will work. And so I'm going to just be very mindful with my money and again, see what God has in store. And I'm excited to see what he's going to open up. I'm trying to be open to any possibilities. I'm applying at jobs that I may not have as many qualifications for, but I know unfortunately also too with me, when I went through college, I only got an associate's degree, and many of the jobs that are out there, they want a minimum of a bachelor's degree. So I've been weighing the pros and cons about possibly going back to school, even if it's just to get a general bachelor's to say I have a bachelor's degree. I know I've talked about it on the podcast before about tearing the paper ceiling and how it's sometimes not fair that people who have amazing job experience are looked over for jobs that they should have or should get or should be able to qualify for. But because they don't have the paper from a school saying that they took this education, that they're looked over. And I know Lori has experienced it with both of her sons. Neither one of them chose the traditional route after high school. So they've both been kind of wrestling with being a laborer more so than being anything else, and they've been looked over for positions because they don't have a bachelor's degree in business management or upper management. And we've all kind of wrestled with that, and I know a lot of people have experienced it too. So I'm just trying to stay active.
And even T shared, in our podcast. So I know I'm
Mhm.
good with this.
Yeah.
And by the way, we just want to acknowledge that we know that T was having some technical difficulties. So we're
Right.
hoping he'll be able to rejoin us, but we're just going to keep going. But even T, who had a master's degree,
Yeah.
for more than a year,
Yeah.
couldn't find a job.
Right.
It can go either way. I really feel like, we talk about the fact that we're faithful women. There's a plan there. It's not like, I was just reading a bunch of my poetry and responses from a class that I took called Virgil and the Latin Golden Age. And a lot of it was these daily journal responses to the ancient texts and reading, and I don't ascribe to the fact that there's fates and fairies out there, and like those are fantastical things, and that's lovely, and I love D&D and Lord of the Rings and all that. But as a faithful person, I do ascribe to the fact that I have to pray, I have to journal, I have to have faith that God is going to provide. It may not look, hey T, welcome back. It may not look, I may be like T. EJ may end up being like T. It may take a whole year. I'm not trying to speak that into existence.
Right.
But what I am trying to do is identify that we just don't know how God exactly wants to take care of us and how he's going to reveal himself and his plans. And so we're going to keep praying. We're going to keep making choices, and this has been an opportunity for EJ and I to grow as roommates and friends. We've now taken a part of our relationship that was there previously, this, caregiving relationship, and we're kind of molding it and changing it, and it's morphing into something different. It isn't that my best friend, my roommate, is not still there for me. She's taking me to an appointment next week that I couldn't find a ride to,
Right.
We're still there. We're still connected. It's just not through a paycheck anymore. And it's not through the caregiver relationship anymore.
Well, and I think we've both kind of been advised, that we should probably pull back from that. And I think to take one less stressor off our plate, and it will help us.
Maybe just a dynamic, because I don't know
Yeah.
there's a stressor. I feel like we've done really well with it.
Oh yeah, we've fought hard to keep our relationship pretty solid throughout this whole thing. But I just mean, like, I think I feel like there were blurred lines when we were doing the caregiving stuff. So now we're kind of having to take a step back and really process and see, like, where the boundaries need to be then. Like, I've shared, like, if you want to go to the gym and I'm not up for it, like, I can take you, like, but I'm not going to go. Like, I'm unemployed. I'm not going to pay for the gym membership right now. In a few months, if I get a job and I have the time, I might get a gym membership again. And I haven't applied for unemployment, and so we'll see if I am approved. I'm following their rules and how they need me to, like, I have to be available for work and I can't turn down interviews and things like that. And I have not done that. I am applying for every week. I'm applying for jobs and submitting it to them, and I'll hear hopefully in a few weeks if I'm approved. But yeah, I feel like now her and I are both finding, like, what we like to do separately, and then what we like to do together. Like, we know we love to take road trips. We know that we like to do writers conferences and writing things together. And we know that we want to set time. Like, we were talking the other day, like, our last few weeks have been so chaotic that there were certain days where, like, her and I are both participating in NaNoWriMo this year. This is my 5th year doing it. This is her first year doing it. And so NaNoWriMo, it's in November, you write 50,000 words, and there's, you know, a daily goal, and there's groups in the area. And we're really blessed. We have a great group of people that we've kind of connected with this past month. This is my first time being able to be physically with anybody, because throughout the pandemic, everything was just virtual. And so you didn't get the same interactions when you're just online. But you know, she's had her moments, and we're like, we didn't get our writing done today. And it's like, okay, well, how can we get that done? And so we've decided to set an hour or so aside in the mornings to do some writing sprints, you know, like where we write for 15 or 20 minutes, and then we take a 5-minute break, and then we do another 20. And then, because we're finding that helps us get our writing done. And so we're kind of just acknowledging where the holes and the gaps are so we can start to fill them, but also knowing, like, she knows I have to be available for work. So there might be a day where if I'm have to do an interview and she's got an appointment, I'm not her caregiver anymore. So we have to figure that out, you know, how we can balance that. But my heart is still to serve people. My heart is to, like, somebody calls up and says, I need it ride. Like, her son called me last night and said, hey, you know, my car's not working. I might need a ride to work. Is there any way you can take me to work? I'm like, well, what time is that going to be? And he's like, I have to be at work at 4 a.m. Okay, I can do it. You know, not going to get a lot of sleep, and I am recording a podcast in the morning, but you know, we'll make it happen. Thankfully, he called me back later, and whatever was wrong, he was able to manage or fix. So I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to get up that early, but
Praise God.
praise God. But yeah, so it just, I like to serve, and I like to be able to help people. I know that other people enjoy serving, so I don't always want to be the one doing it. But you know, Lori's like, she's like, I have an appointment this coming week, and I currently don't have anybody to take me. Can you take me? And I'm like, sure. And through her state stuff, as long as I have an active driver's license and car insurance, she can get a gas voucher for me, which we got to do too, by the way.
Yeah, we do.
We keep forgetting to do that, and then that will help, you know, like for things like that. So again, like Lori said, you know, opening it up, seeing where God has us, and seeing what he wants us to do in our life. Does Lori get to like snowbird to like Arizona and California and, you know, Texas and New Mexico for the, you know, the winter because she hates the snow? And, you know, I live here year round, and, or, you know, what does that look like? And, you know, my desire is to have a remote job where I can work virtually from anywhere as long as I have internet. So I can do some traveling and do my road tripping that I desire to do, because that's my goal. I want to, you know, be able to hop in the car and spend 2 weeks going and sightseeing, and, you know, not feeling so rushed through just a road trip where we have to be home at a certain time. Yeah. So we have a lot on our plate, a lot of things to do, but we also enjoy the podcast. We enjoy talking about it. We really enjoy being on here. And, you know, this is the first time the three of us have really sat down together in months, just because our lives have been so back and forth, and work and crazy travels and things like that. So I'm really glad to kind of be back and set up a routine, and, you know, get the podcasts going again. And I know we have some, I have some stuff I'm going to share towards the end of the episode. So I just want to give both of you an opportunity to share anything else you'd like to say regarding the episode before I kind of wrap us up with some housekeeping. And
Tina, is there anything you want to share? You're muted. You're muted, darling.
I mute it to keep the squeaky chair from being squeaky.
Right. What did you want?
You know, I think I don't think there's a lot to really go into. You know, life has changed, and some of it we can predict and some of it we can't. And so, you know, like I couldn't predict that my phone was gonna suddenly drop charge like crazy, and
Oh no.
yeah, it didn't give me much warning. And it was fully charged when we started, just so you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, didn't predict that, but you know, just go with the flow.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
And I think one of the things I really felt important when I was sharing in social media, and because this podcast is centered around being authentic and real, we didn't go into a lot of detail about, the downs. We're going to use some episodes to talk about some of those things and to share more. But it's not that they weren't there, and it's not that we're not acknowledging them. We are. They were there. There's family issues and deaths and illness and war and conflict and mass shootings, and this world that we live in, it's a little crazy. And you don't know. We do not know what the rest of this day holds. Nevertheless, what tomorrow holds. So thank you for listening to our celebrations and a lot of the things that went well. But know that we're humans.
Yep.
We cry. We have sleepless nights. Things are not perfect in any shape or form. We're real. We're messy. I had a friend in church the other day. She shared this beautiful piece, and she talked about the fact that the previous year she had a friend come into her life and wanted to come over and see her and the children. And she asked her not to come over. She said she would meet her somewhere else because her house was a mess. Things weren't right, She was reflecting that now she's actually getting to a stage in her life where she actually regretted not allowing that person to just be in her mess, to love her and meet her where she was at. And she talked about the fact that she is getting more and more comfortable with saying, come meet me in my beautiful mess. And I love that because I'm trying to embrace that too. I want to be more authentic. I want to be real. I want to laugh with you. I want to cry with you. I want to celebrate with you. I want to mourn with you. I want to grow. I want to live life together. Messy and fun and sad and heartbreaking and joyful all at the same time. And so that's what I want us to do in this podcast and within our lives. And I'm so grateful that you're all here listening and joining in on this journey with us. And you're meeting us where we're at, and we're meeting you where you're at. And that's life. Isn't there a song called Meet Me in the Middle? Sure there is. I
Need that old Georgia pine.
Okay. I like it. Let's keep meeting in the middle.
Yeah, so for sure. So for the future of the podcast, so we're gonna, I think, keep things the way they are for the time being. But through some writers conferences and some other things through the library, we've learned that our local libraries have podcast studios. So we're going to look into what that might look like if we could partake in using those. I know with Lori and I live together, obviously, and T does not live near us. So she's about an hour or so away. So that we'd have to work on some logistics on how that might make it a person where we'd all be in the same room, or how we could also do something like what we're doing, kind of a hybrid of in the studio and T calling in. So we're just kind of looking to seeing what that might look like. We're going to do some training with hopefully the next couple of weeks or by the end of the year, maybe, and just kind of tackle that. But that'll be cool because that'll give us a little different environment and maybe some different equipment, and we can use it all for free instead of purchasing our own or guessing what we need. And then also we've purchased the domain name for behindthemaskpc.com. And so slowly we'll be building out some, emails for each of us. as well as building up the website and start posting some information, maybe some extra resources as for per episode. We're just kind of seeing what it's going to look like to have the website. I know a lot of other podcasts do have a website, and so I kind of just want to see what we can build with that, but we definitely wanted to get a hold of that. And we've all done Behind the Mask PC on everything else, so let's have our own website doing the same thing. So those are some exciting kind of moving forward pieces we're going to kind of work on through season 3 and see what happens. I'm excited kind of as the changes and as I'm learning different things. And I'm personally building my own website, and I'm desiring, especially as authors and professionals, you usually have to have some sort of online presence that's not just social media. Those are great, but you want like a virtual home, I guess you could say. And this would be great for all of us, but also, for the podcast, and start,
Can I throw in here? I know T, you did a little bit of work in our little online store. I want to remind people, I don't know how I get it focused, but there it is. This is just one of the things that you can get. There's bags, there's mugs,
I need to order
I think there's some t-shirts, there's some water bottles. Just one little way you can support the podcast, support us. And we haven't in a long time really even talked about that. One of the things that EJ and I are exploring is, how do we maybe not go back to the traditional 9 to 5? How do we support ourselves, possibly through the podcast, through our photography, through our writing? That's what we're exploring. So I guess I just want to throw that out there. I know EJ puts it in the links, but there are ways to support us. There are ways to contribute, financially. We would love to be able to not go back to the rat race and the traditional 9 to 5 kind of thing. So just keep that in your thoughts and your prayers. And please, if you get the opportunity, click on one of those links, purchase a mug, a water bottle, whatever. Support us where we're at, meet us where we're at that way. And subscribing and liking and helping us to be able to keep this stuff going. So please like, subscribe, share, and support us.
And we've discussed, the three of us, some ways that we can get more audience interaction and, to grow the audience. And so hope that there might be some things that come up in the future, whether it be little contests or little activities like that. We definitely want to hear feedback, and we would definitely, if you have an idea for something you'd like us to talk about, if you think you'd like to be a guest, please reach out to one of us so that we can talk about what that would look like. Because sometimes having guests, not only is it great, we get to meet new people, but we all, so almost always when we do bring on a guest, one of us at least doesn't know that guest. And so we get to know someone new and expand in, our own relationships that way. But then it also helps expand our viewership, because those people bring in people who might be interested in. So any kind of feedback, any kind of ideas, anything like that, we would definitely welcome. And EJ is really good at putting in the links, ways to contact us, like Lori said. Shoot us an email, leave a comment on our videos and or podcasts, however you're accessing this, because that also, not only is it great for us to be able to do better, it also helps the algorithms. So subscribing, sharing, commenting, all of those things, liking, those are all things that can really help this show up on other people's feeds.
Right. Amen.
Yes.
Yep. And so to close it out here, this episode, as we've said, is available on YouTube and most major podcast platforms. Please subscribe if you're not one, to keep up on what we're doing and all our other episodes, and also to help the algorithms, because I know that's kind of how things are living right now. We are currently on Facebook, Twitter, which is now X, Instagram, and Threads as Behind the Mask PC. We'll get the website out. It's behindthemaskpc.com. But for currently, you can still email us at behindthemaskpc@gmail.com. Links for Lori T and myself, EJ, are online and in the description of each episode. And on behalf of us, the ladies, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next time. Bye.